Thank you to everyone who's joining. As a reminder, you can hop off, just go ahead and hop on camera for us, but keep your mute on. I'd love to see all of our panelists. Excellent. We're on our 80th Zoom call of the day. So everyone's just like, oh my gosh, how's my makeup? It's great, just so you know.
I know when we do these at 4, I'm like, is that okay? Is everyone just done by then? But this is a fun thing at the end of the day. So we figured it'd be all right.
Love it.
Great to see many of your smiling faces. We're going in a couple minutes.
That sounds great. Yeah, give some folks to join.
Yeah.
We already have some. Go ahead and hop in the chat, say hi, let us know where you're zooming in from today.
This is a global event, so tell us where you are.
I'm going to make everyone very mad with mine. So there we go.
Oh, yeah, that's, yep.
Yeah, so we'll just move on. Someone else put something in the chat. Thank you. Yes, I love Madison. I love Madison, Erin. Awesome.
Nice.
I went there for a wedding for one of my cousins, and I was like, really, Madison? And then I said, really, Madison? I loved it. It was so fun.
It's a beautiful state.
Yeah. Wonderful. Ooh, welcome.
Nice. Geez, a lot of states.
Okay, so we haven't hit any repeat states. This is so amazing. Oh, great. Okay. Awesome. 2 folks from Minneapolis, love it, or Minnesota rather.
Oh, Arizona.
Oh my
gosh,
Arizona. Love it. Rachel and Cincy, hi. I remember once I was writing an article about Cincinnati and I asked a friend who lived there, is it Cincy with a Y or an I? And he told me, I won't answer. Like, you're not cool enough. You got to live here to know. I still don't know. Okay, it's with a Y. See, this is why you're a true friend.
Validated, confirmed.
As we get closer to starting, it would be wonderful if you could go ahead, hover over the 3 dots over your little Zoom box and update to the first name you'd like me to use if we engage in conversation. Love it. BioOhio field office in Westerville. Yes. Great. Well, I'm sure we'll have more folks join, but we want to be respectful of all of your time. So what do you say, Jen? You want to get started?
Yeah, let's get started.
Awesome.
Great. Hello, everyone, and all the states that are represented today. It's great to see so many of you from all around Ohio and outside Ohio. Thanks for joining this afternoon after maybe some Zoom fatigue, but hopefully this energizes you. I know this will bring a lot of energy, so thank you. I'm Jen Goldsberry. Scott, I'm supposed to remind you to record. Sorry, I just wanted to mention that. I'm with BioOhio, the state's Bioscience membership organization. And I believe we have our full BioOhio team on here today, the small and mighty team of John Lewis, Scott Clay, and Drew Cook. We are here to help your organization grow in Ohio, in the bioscience world. So please reach out to us for networking, connections, advocacy, talent, and of course, events like we are hosting today. Very excited to be, this is our first of the 2021 Diversity in Bioscience and Healthcare event. So we'll do 2 more later in the year. This is the first of this year. It's a series we've been hosting since 2015, and we've enjoyed watching this event not only gain momentum, but really the organizations who are really adopting this whole concept and integrating it into their workforce. So it's just been such a fun journey and working with our members and organizations for this purpose. So it's wonderful. Today we'll hear from BioOhio member AtriCure, who has been a wonderful supporter of this series for many years. And they're going to take you through their fabulous journey of DE&I. And then BioOhio member Brooke with ImprovEdge will be facilitating and moderating. And the event is sponsored by Avantor, who you'll hear from in just a moment. We really appreciate their event sponsorship. And you'll hear from him some of the things they're doing, and also make sure you learn more about their cost savings programs, which I'll put in the chat in a little bit, through BioOhio membership. Our members are saving millions of dollars on Avantor supplies for your lab. So let us know if you're interested in that. And then the event is also in partnership with Healthcare Businesswomen's Association. And I know there are several from the Columbus board on this call today. So we'll also put some in chat, some opportunities there, including an upcoming event in July. It's called the LIFT Symposium. HBA hosts a number of events, and they're also seeking a president for their Columbus board. So I wanted to mention that in case you're looking for development opportunities. So that is all for now. Just be ready to engage. This is energetic conversation, so be ready to ask questions and engage today. And I will now turn the mic over, the virtual mic, to Jason at Avantor, our event sponsor. Thank you so much.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me today here. Really excited to present with you on some exciting stuff with DE&I within Avantor. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Give me just a moment, though. Let's see. And let me know when you can see that.
I think we got it, Jason. Thanks.
Gotta get it into presentation mode here with There we go. Is that coming through nice and clear?
It is.
Sure is, Jason. Yep.
All right. Perfect. Thank you. So I'm going to try to move along quickly here. A lot of information to cover. Let me see if I can also get this block out of the way. There we go. All right. So again, my name is Jason Dross, Region Director for Education and Medical Research with Avantor here in Ohio, Western Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. Really delighted to talk about our DE&I journey that we've had over the past year. This really began in 2020, as many of you know. We had a lot of unrest in the US. There was a lot of rioting and protests that took place in early 2020. And this began to spark a lot of conversation within our organization. The conversation began with our executive leadership team and our senior leadership team, and also in a grassroots movement amongst our employees. And then as we began to have these dialogues and conversations and kind of stumbled our way through and cut our teeth on this entire project, we learned a lot. So fast forward to 2021, here we are almost a year from that beginning phase. Very delighted to share kind of where we are in our DE&I journey in hopes that it may help spark some ideas for you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. So again, can you see the entire screen here? Is that visible to you? I'm getting a
Yes.
big drop-down menu. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to refer to the DE&I groups kind of in the generic form. We do have some internal names that are internal to our company, but for the purpose of our presentation today, I'll refer to them as a DE&I group. So what is a DE&I group? This is a voluntary associate-led group that aims to foster diverse and inclusivity in the workplace. This is for anyone to join. Associates can join based on shared characteristics, life experiences, gender, ethnicity, religious affiliation, or become an ally. And the key takeaway here on this point is that becoming an ally is really important. A lot of people think, oh, you know, I'm a white male, I can't be part of our women's group, or I'm not a person of color, I can't be part of the BIPOC group, but that's so untrue. And so we begin to have those discussions with our associates that we need people to join the groups to understand, to be aware, and help us support the initiatives and the understanding across the organization. So what we're doing is we're focusing on 3 key pillars, and those look like culture of inclusion, community and collaboration, and personal development. Currently, we have 3 groups which we expect to develop into further groups down the road, but the 3 we have at the moment are the women's focus, the LGBTQI+ focus, and our BIPOC focus for Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Now, these communities are groups that elevate the voices of people, they strengthen a sense of belonging, and they also are networks that are open to all associates. The group's purpose are connected with their common characteristics, and they support Avantor's value, code, and business strategy. What these groups are not is bargaining groups representing associates or employment topics, and they're not organized for the purpose of proselytizing or forming any practicing or advocating of hate or intolerance. You notice at the bottom of the screen, we do have our internal kind of social media platform, kind of from an intranet perspective. We used to have more of a mechanical process where people could go online and join through filling out a form. Now, all they have to do is go onto our Yammer group where they can be kind of a social media experience. They can click and join. They're automatically an ally across any of the groups that they want. and they can see posts and updates from these organizations and groups around current topics and educational material. So I am the America's lead for the LGBTQIA+ focus group, and this covers North America, South America, Mexico, on this side of the globe. And so really what we're focusing on right now in the LGBTQIA+ group is creating that inclusive environment. We're working on education and training of leadership and associates. We're increasing that visibility and promoting that change from within the organization. We're also collaborating with the other allies in DE&I groups in our organization so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel for every single topic. There are many things that are kind of uniform across the groups that we can kind of share best practices and ideas across. And then lastly, but not least, career development and mentorship is a main focus for our LGBTQI+ members to help them find purpose and a career path within our organization. The next, we want to talk about our women's focus group. So the purpose of this group is really to focus on creating an environment that is safe, encouraging the inspiration and supporting women across the globe. We pride ourselves in a deliberate strategy. We want to advocate and develop tools to help women achieve professional development. We want to promote connections among our associates and provide women with the opportunity for growth within the internal and or external partners. So this collective voice is really working through deliberate, impactful, and measured communications. And part of that measured approach is really working through our employee engagement surveys and our ally surveys to get feedback on how we're doing as we measure these different metrics. And then next we have our BIPOC, so our Black, Indigenous, People of Color focus group. And this is really focusing on education and equity. So providing and identifying, cultivating opportunities for inclusion, facilitating and supporting our DE&I training, providing resources like books, movies, and speakers with forums, and then showing visibility to elevate the voices of the diverse cultures that we represent. We're showcasing BIPOC people in the past and present. We're also highlighting events like Martin Luther King Day, Juneteenth, Black History Month, etc. And the next I want to focus on this slide that you may have seen. So this is an image that's been floating around social media for a long time, and there are actual iterations that go on further to explain more of a story here. But I really like what the takeaway message was. So if you look at the left, you'll see that equality picture where you've got three individuals standing on three boxes that are all the same size. And really that is the equality. It's that same size box across the playing field there. So they're all trying to enjoy the baseball game. One person can see over quite nicely. The other person can see over kind of a little bit. And the last person can't see really over at all. So when we're thinking about equity within our DE&I practices, we want to make sure that that path that our employees are on looks the same for each individual, because not every employee will have the same experience. So you notice the person there on the left side has no box, they can see and enjoy the game. The person in the middle has one box so they can see over and enjoy the game. And then lastly, you have the person on two boxes and they can look over and see the game like everybody else. So just keep in mind that as you're building equity within the organization, that looks differently across for all different associates. And sometimes they require different tools and resources to have the same experience. So just to kind of close out here with our Avantor DE&I strategy, it talks about kind of our different areas that we're focusing on. So governance and integrity, people and culture, community engagement, and innovation and sustainability. And so we kind of look at our people and culture here. We're looking through leadership, talent, engagement, and communication. We're demonstrating that through our ELT and our SLT. We're building our DE&I into recruiting and selecting talent, focusing on engagement, conducting associate engagement surveys and results to take action on, and then communication across progress to associates on an ongoing basis. So again, that's just a sneak peek into the many different conversations we're having at Avantor, and really excited to see where we are as an organization today.
Great, thank you so much, Jason. All right, Brooke, you got the stage.
Jason, I echo Jen's thanks. Thank you so much for taking us through that. And thank you so much for showing us how to use a PowerPoint on Zoom, because I'm really not good at it. So even though I thought about doing it, way to go, pro. I am not the technological person here at all. My name is Brooke Cartus. I'm so excited to be here today in our longtime partnership with BioOhio. I can say that 2 years is a long time. I am the Director of Growth and Belonging at ImprovEdge. ImprovEdge is a training and development company with an improv twist, and we truly believe improv changes everything. Since my tenure with the organization started in 2015, we have grown our DEI practice to be one of the main 3 pillars of our delivery. So we're very excited to go into organizations, to get to know, to partner and collaborate with them in the disruption of implicit biases and transform culture. I'm proud to say we're in the top 4% of women-owned businesses in the United States, and we are growing. So with that, I want to welcome our panelists today from AtriCure. Because we want to be thoughtful of time, I'm going to ask all of our panelists before we start to introduce yourselves. Please just say your name and your title, and then we'll get into the fun. Kelly, why don't we kick it off with you?
Good evening. My name is Callie J. Scott. I'm the Director of Diversity and Engagement for AtriCure.
Jennifer?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Jasper. I'm the Vice President of Human Resources for AtriCure.
David.
Hello, everyone. My name is David Wade, and I'm the Director for Human Resources, Learning, and Development at AtriCure.
Rita?
Hi, everyone. I'm Rita Wallstrom, Principal Recruiter in Talent Acquisition, Human Resources at AtriCure.
Rashawn?
Hello, my name is Rashawn Storrs. I'm the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and Business Partner here at AtriCure.
Liz?
Thanks, Brooke. This is Liz Barnes. I'm the Senior Director in Research and Development in our Product Development Engineering team.
Great. Michelle?
Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Hignite. I'm the Director of Design Assurance Quality here at AtriCure in Mason.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so excited to be here today to talk about how to transform culture. And at ImprovEdge, we believe that improv is a really wonderful lens to think about change management. Certainly, we know there's a lot of mistakes, there's a lot of failing up, there's a lot of innovation, and there's a lot of growth, and there's a lot of excitement. And we call that excitement and positivity in improv the yes space, living in the yes space. So I'll be yes spacing you all and asking you to show up to talk about what it's like to transform a culture from the bottom up. To kick us off, I'm going to ask us all to be improvisers. So we have 59 participants on the chat, so I expect 58 responses because I can't respond. What I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to launch a poll, and I'd love to play a game to start called Been There. And this is where I'm going to launch a poll. There's 4 different experiences on this poll. And if one or more of these have happened to you, I want you to go ahead and click on those experiences. So I'm going to go ahead and launch. And then if one of these has happened to you or more, you can click on one or more. Go ahead and do it. So the first one, I was in a room as the ranking leader. However, people deferred to a lower level person near me, assuming he was the leader. I have been told, wow, you are so articulate. I have been asked, why don't you smile more? I have changed my appearance for a particular event and received the comment, why don't you dress up more often? So we have 3 votes. We have a lot more to go. Everybody get on the chat, engage in the poll here. Oh, Scott, did you press end poll? Is that what happened?
I have not.
So it says, okay, I'm going to relaunch it to see. All right, everyone vote again because it just stopped. Yeah, Deacon, it disappeared on you. All right, let's try again.
No, I messed up when I did it. It's a timed poll, so I think they only have 20 seconds to answer. That's
oh, wow. Okay, all right. Then everybody hurry and answer. You got, only that much time. Oh, dear.
Eh.
Oh, wait, no, they have more than 20 seconds. Oh, we're fine, I think. We'll find out. Select more than one if you can. Yes.
I think you can only choose one.
Oh, okay. So you can only choose one. Thank you so much, Cameron. Sorry about that.
Technical difficulties.
No worries. That's the joy of Zoom, y'all. All right. So if you could only choose one, we're going to be improvisers. Share in the chat the other one that happened to you if you're willing. If not, we can keep it anonymous. I can say I was on Zoom and I was told by a man that I needed to wear more makeup, which I feel like qualifies as the smile more one. I feel like I should get points for that one. I feel like that feels similar. All right, so we're doing good. We have 60% voted. I want a few more in the chat.
We do have a few people that are on phone that probably can't submit an answer.
Oh, that's okay. Oh, we're already at 62%. It's happening. All right, cool. I'll take the 62%. I'm going to take the win. So I got to go ahead and share the results. And for those on the phone, I'm just going to read these aloud. So this is really powerful. And for those of you who shared, thank you so much. For those of you who had more than one experience, I hear you. So we have 28% who've experienced being in the room as the ranking leader, and someone has been deferred to, and they were assumed that they were not the ranking leader in the room. 31% have been told that they're so articulate. Why don't you smile more? 28%. And I've changed my appearance for a particular event and received the comment, why don't you dress up more often? So why do you think we started with this game? As we think about transforming culture, all of these very moments of implicit bias or judgment happened, and they're small. Why do you think this is how we want to kick off the conversation and how we transform culture? Someone share in the chat or hop off mute. Great, Rachel, it shows how many of us have been affected by biases and inequality. Neela mentioned microaggressions, which we talk about very deeply in equity and inclusion work. Great. I love that there were comments that can we only select one, because people are like, a lot of things have happened. I love that. Yeah, so these small behaviors add up. And even if they don't add up, the small behaviors change culture, right? They change how we are engaging and how we feel. These moments where we don't realize we are not moving the culture forward. And Nicole makes a great point. A lot of these examples are not examples of explicit discrimination. These are examples where we don't even realize what we're saying, but they can erode culture. So as we think about how we transform an organization, we have to think about that organization as an organism. And that's the joy of improvisation, working with teams and organizations in the biosciences, because we love thinking about the evidence and the research behind what we're doing. Organizations that invest in inclusion and culture survive economic downturns more resiliently. We don't need to make the business case for diversity. There's also the human case, but it is a reminder that organizations are organisms and they need space to thrive and grow and make mistakes so that we can drive forward in innovative ways. So thank you for all being improvisers with me. I am going to transition into our panel discussion. Before I do that, a reminder, we'd love to hear from you in the chat. And if you're on the phone, we'd love to hear from you in the Q&A as well. So don't hesitate to ask questions. We're going to keep the conversation going. I ask that we all show up in the yes space. So we're going to show up dropping our values, or dropping our assumptions rather, and showing up with joint values of positivity and courage. So if you want to chat and ask a question in the chat, note, I'll try to get to it. And if we don't, we have space at the end for Q&A. So bring on the questions. We love curiosity, both at ImprovEdge and AtriCure. So that's why it's a beautiful marriage. With that, I want to transition into kicking us off. I'd love to hear from, oh, wait, where did we go? Did we freeze? Can you all still see me?
I can still see you.
Oh, good. Oh, okay. Oh, I thought I froze. Isn't this fun? I feel like my Zoom is ready for work to be over. Maybe that's what's happening here. So I'd like to pass it to Jennifer Jasper, who's going to kick us off with some context around where we're at as an organization with AtriCure and the history of the organization and what you do. Jennifer?
Thanks so much, Brooke. You know, I've been with AtriCure over 16 years now, and I have seen so much growth and change over the years. It's remarkable. And not only growth among our products and procedures that we support, but growth in our people. We have employees on a local production floor. We have international employees. We have people that are field sales, based and office based. And we really want to recognize those diverse voices as we continue to build our products. So what we do is we make cardiac surgery devices that are used in many cases to help treat atrial fibrillation. And we have different product families, those using RF energy, cryo energy. We have an implantable device, And most recently, we have a device and a process aimed at pain management, which is very exciting. But as our products have grown, we've had to build our employee base in order to support that. And how do you keep your culture strong as you are growing so rapidly? I think we've done a good job. We have been honored with the top workplace designation 5 times. So that's quite an achievement that is based on employee responses only. So we're very proud of that.
I think you've done more than a good job. I think you could say great job. I'm here to tell you, great job.
Thank you, thank you. It's, you know, it's something that we have been very intentional about. So I can really think of 3 areas I would highlight. And you know, I believe Jason alluded to this as well. One of the most important areas is leadership. Leadership sets the tone. So when the entire company can see the leaders living out their words through their actions, they know that those values are truly heartfelt and upheld by the company. And our CEO, Mike Carroll, who may even be listening right now, I don't know, he has said that AtriCure is a company that has always had long-standing efforts to foster a workplace that rejects discrimination, celebrates differences, and promotes equality, and that we are committed to doing more in that area. And that forms the basis of our relationships that we develop with employees and that they develop with us. So another area that I would say is crucial to that whole building of the culture is fostering the sort of workplace environment that employees can really connect with. We provide ample PTO and good benefits, but we do things like bring wellness vans to our locations. We have costume contests at Halloween. We celebrate milestones like achieving 15 years of, 15 years of tenure with the company, or having a new baby or similar. We really want to make sure that employees feel welcome and appreciated. And part of that can be seen in the way that we promote charitable connectedness as well. So we do holiday outreach where we adopt families that maybe need assistance during the holidays. We partner with the American Heart Association. We've worked with Dress for Success to help prepare their clients for interviews in the future. And we provide employees with 2 paid days off annually to volunteer at the cause that is closest to their heart, because AtriCure cares about what's important to employees. I guess the third area that I would highlight is communication, both to employees and from employees. So to employees, we have frequent all-employee meetings at which our CEO speaks and company updates are given. We have electronic message boards positioned around our facilities so that everyone can see communication and updates. During the pandemic, Mike started doing video segments called Carol's Corner and Mike's Minute, and those have proven to be very popular. We've even done a printed newsletter for our production team because they don't have dedicated computer access. In addition to that, though, we also want to listen to what employees are communicating to us. So one way that we do this is our annual employee survey. We've been doing this for almost a decade now. And in that survey, our employees have a voice to express to us what's important to them. And major things have come out of that. We instituted our entire tuition reimbursement program because of responses on an employee survey. We also offer now a program of parental leave for new fathers, and that also came out of the employee survey as well. So this kind of responsiveness has been key to making sure that employees feel that they have a way to communicate to the company just the way that they're receiving information. All of this kind of adds up to a pattern of deliberate and intentional actions that form our culture and provide the foundation that we are using to build our DE&I program on. It's allowing us to make very strategic investments, like bringing dedicated resources into the picture in Kelly and Rashawn.
That's wonderful. I loved hearing about the employee survey. You know, you set up all these initiatives, you do all this, and then the employee surveys come in and they say, we need this, and you react like improvisers, right? You're still prepared to have that conversation. The key of that is not saying, we'll just wait till the employees tell us what they want. It sounds like AtriCure is doing a really beautiful combination of both, working really proactively to create this inclusive culture, and then listening to employees on what they need. And we know in the last year that has changed so much. So I also love this newsletter idea. I'm just like, a printed newsletter. Oh, I have been so long.
But very valuable. We want to be inclusive and make sure every single person gets the same information. And if people are geographically distributed, and if they are don't have maybe the same access to electronic information, then we make sure we present it in another way.
I love that. I love meeting people where they are and really being proactive and reactive at once. So Jennifer, thank you for coming on and setting the stage for us, which is what we call it. I love that. I want to turn to Rashawn, Rita, and David now. You're all on deck. I haven't decided. So get ready. I'm just kidding. I'm going to pick on Rashawn. Rashawn, we go way back. I've known you for 3 years now, so we're practically best friends.
Exactly.
I would love to hear from you about what it feels like to drive an innovative culture in the DEI space at AtriCure.
Yes. So I started with AtriCure back in 2018. My responsibilities involved general HR duties, as well as introducing programs geared towards DEI and activities around employee engagement. This involved establishing different relationships with community organizations, forming partnerships with local universities to attract the best talent, offering trainings where we've identified areas of need, and getting a good sense of the type of culture that we already had in place. Coming on board, I immediately felt the great culture that was already in place. As Jennifer mentioned, we had won top workplaces a few times prior to me joining, and there was also just a feeling of collaboration, professionalism, and support from fellow colleagues in any initiative that we were doing. So having this type of culture already in place, a culture that gives you a sense of community, made it easy to introduce different activities and trainings around engagement and DEI. As we all know, efforts to grow a culture and make it a place that people enjoy coming to each day, as Jennifer mentioned, has to start from the top because of the leadership from our CEO, Mike Carroll, and our Chief HR Officer, Tanya Austin. Your guidance and leadership has led us to where we are today. And that's why we have stepped up our efforts over the last year to create a more robust DEI strategic framework.
I love that. I think it's so interesting, Rashawn. You know, I'd love for you to share a little bit more because we've been on these sessions. You know, we've talked so much about diversity and inclusion and how that drives as you think about creating that framework. what from the last 3 years have you been able to really pull through in your experience at AtriCure that you've said, wow, you know what, 3 years ago, I probably wouldn't have put that in there, but now, yes, I want to include this. Yes, this is important.
Yeah, so from the beginning, employee engagement was a big piece. So having events where employees felt welcomed. So I remember when I first started, we had an event called A Journey Around the World, where employees, we have an extremely diverse workforce, especially in our production area. So we had employees who are from, I think it was Nigeria, some from the Philippines. So they all brought, the event was catered around bringing in a dish that was kind of native to your background and culture. So I thought that event and the response from it, from the employees, was received extremely well. Other events that we've done and the trainings that we have done, from that, employees have been extremely appreciative of getting that knowledge and that wider viewpoint of what we're doing as a company and the direction we're moving in.
Well, that does sound like a great event, Liz. I echo that, and also a delicious event. I just feel like that is, I just sounds fantastic. I think it's because we're getting close to dinner time. I eat at 5. I am 87. I love an early dinner, so here for that. Thank you for sharing, Rashawn, and I love to hear kind of what, again, the pairing of, you know, again, bringing in a dish or bringing in something from your culture or something like that, and then also pulling that and driving that through into AtriCure's values and the framework there is it's a beautiful collaboration, and I love to hear it. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
In addition, Rita and David, get ready. I'm coming for you. Rashawn, you can sit back, you can relax, pour yourself some water, chill. David, I'm so excited to hear from you both. David, our HR Director of Learning and Development, and Rita Wallstrom, AtriCure's Principal Global Recruiter. I pass it to you first, David, to hear about what continuous learning looks like in this space when driving culture. And, you know, if you're willing to share some of the challenges, I think that this is something that, again, in learning and development space, because I live in it, I'm always so fascinated and just so incredibly impressed with AtriCure's incredible continued curiosity in this space.
I love that you use continuous curiosity when sort of organizing ourselves around learning and development. That's actually a mission statement we kind of put together for how we want to approach learning as a whole. So as it applies to diversity, equity, inclusion, first and foremost, we wanted to make sure that all of our learning and development in that space is directly attached to learning and development as a whole, that it's not something separate. And you'll be meeting Kelly in a little bit, and she'll talk about that. But diversity and equity and inclusion is precisely the way that we approach leadership development. It's a part of the way that we approach it. And there's five main areas that we have focused on over the past year, and we're still focused on going forward. So number one, from a learning perspective, understanding the difference between diversity and inclusion. Now, you know, a lot of people might know what diversity means, but the concept of inclusion, of course, requires a different level of understanding. In fact, there's a quote out there that I've heard before saying, diversity doesn't stick without inclusion. So these are central concepts that are a part of our training last year and going forward. Number two, raising awareness surrounding implicit or sometimes called unconscious bias. Unconscious bias is something that's been around for many years, but the idea through our training to identify implicit bias and hidden bias and helping employees and leaders understand that it poses a serious roadblock to being an organization that's truly diverse and inclusive. So we have annual unconscious bias training for all employees, but there's a real emphasis on raising awareness on the different types of unconscious bias. The third area is recognizing and addressing microaggressions. So also with microaggressions, it's a concept that's been familiar in psychology for decades, but we're working with employees to help understand what microaggressions are, such as verbal, nonverbal, environmental slights, snubs, insults, all those intentional and unintentional microaggressions, identifying them. But the real idea here is to identify them and then make sure that we stem them from our organization going forward. The fourth area is encouraging allyship and bystander intervention, that we all have a role in these areas. So we teach different ways to be advocates and allies to our AtriCure coworkers, whether it's targeting bias, microaggressions, or other types of non-inclusive behavior. And then lastly, the fifth area, diversity and inclusion has a central role in training our managers as it applies to the talent acquisition or the recruiting process. First and foremost, we identify with our leaders that we all have unconscious bias. We're all naturally drawn to people like us. The example I always use is if I meet graduates from Xavier University, I automatically want to talk to them because that's where I went to school. That's unconscious bias, and I shouldn't do that. So we go through the process. Just as I said at the beginning, unconscious bias is embedded in the way that we teach our managers about the overall recruitment process. It's been a real pleasure to be a part of the organization. Brooke, as you know, I joined just a little over a year ago, and this has been a real blast to build this out. It's been a real privilege.
You picked a heck of a year. You know what I mean? Like that's anyone who says they've met somewhere a year, I'm like, how are you? No, I love that. And what I love about that description, and thank you for taking us through those 5 pieces, is that all of the inclusion initiatives run as a through line. You don't say, all right, we're going to do this training over here, and then it's leadership training, right? It has to be inextricably intertwined. We call them in my volunteer work as death by committee, right? You put it in a corner and we're just going to leave it there. And again, committees are very effective. I'm on many committees. I do love a good committee. How do we make sure we're driving towards action and it's not just sitting in a waiting room? And I love the description of those 5 pieces because it creates an opportunity, again, thinking back to Jennifer's comment about meeting people where they are, all different learning styles, and then also different challenges. How inclusivity initiatives manifest in a people leader looks very different than an individual contributor, even within roles. So I want to say thank you for sharing. Bravo, as we say in the opera. I love that. I loved hearing about that. Yes, it's happening. You knew there was an opera reference. There always is. So I love that. I want to turn to Rita to hear a little bit as you think about, so we hear about these learning and development initiatives. We hear about the amazing work that L&D is doing to advance employees. How do you think about bringing employees into this space and making sure they're a good cultural fit and they drive that innovative culture forward?
Yeah. Thanks, Brooke. Great question. And we are definitely a work in progress. Rashawn and David have created a great platform for our talent acquisition team. And a little plug, we have an awesome talent acquisition team. We are, can I brag about us? We've been a powerhouse. We've been a lot of positions. Right, good. I want to do that. We brought in some outstanding talent, and it's been really fun for me in 6 years to see folks I hired way back when and now in leadership roles and progressing and adding so much to the organization. But yeah, we definitely have a great platform that we've been able to utilize. And, as you're going to hear more from Kelly as well in our strategic initiative, we are still in an early stage. So for those of you listening, we're not here to say that we are experts yet, but we are doing what we can, and we're finding creative ways to continue to expand our talent pool. And as David mentioned, one of the things that we as a talent acquisition team have done is we've always had an effective interview training that we provided for managers, but really have put in a strong emphasis on D&I and how that impacts your team and how that can help broaden your talent base and how that will broaden the reach and expand the talent pool and ultimately have a much stronger team. So we outline what that looks like. We add our unconscious bias training within that so that they have an understanding of what it is and how we unintentionally do that in our hiring practice. As David gave that example about universities. Yeah, I love to hire a gopher too, especially if they're a lacrosse player. I mean, you can't help yourself, right? There's things like that. And it's not that we're intentionally doing that, but how do we catch ourselves from doing that, and how does that really impact your bias? And the unconscious bias piece, also isn't just about ethnicity and all of the things we think about when we think of diversity. It's also looking at people that are bringing in a different aspect to your team. So really not so much trying to get that mind shift to move away from cultural fit versus you know, an added dimension. What are they bringing that's different or unique? Not, you know, bringing in somebody that's just like the rest of the team, you know, or they're going to fit great, you know, and that, you know, of course you want that fit, but you also want that added dimension or that you know, that dimension that's going to be different from the team. So looking for that kind of difference. So trying to get that mind shift is one area that we're working on as well. And also trying to help hiring leaders understand why it's problematic when, you know, we're constantly looking or we're constantly having that bias in our hiring practices and how that could, you know, how that can be problematic to get through that. So some of the things that we are doing as far as attracting diverse talent, as we started out at the schools, you know, working with, you know, reaching out to various schools. So we're in that process right now. We've been doing that, reached out to different schools, honing in on who is leading their D&I efforts, and also working with the various student groups that are interested in learning more about in the biotech space, that want to learn more about engineering, the day in the life of AtriCure. And so, you know, the kind of the mind shift, you know, 6 years ago, when I thought about diversity, you know, recruiting, I would have thought, okay, I'm going to slap some job, you know, postings out there and see what happens. Yeah. But we've really come to realize we have to be so much more creative and so much more thoughtful in how we go about it, and using a lot of different branches and outreach in how we do it. You know, it's more than putting a posting out there and hoping for the best. It's building relationships. Yeah. It's meeting these people, meeting the various groups, that, you know, the people that we can, that could potentially add a lot to our, you know, our organization, and that we can add a lot for them as well. So starting at the college level, you know, offering up to be, to network, to mentor. And we also do things like from a system standpoint, we have a system that we utilize called CIRCO, which is formerly known as Local Job Network. So that actually scrapes our postings and posts it out to various diversity sites and various sites that are out there across the country that are helpful as well. It also can help with tracking progress. It can also houses various resumes, like a giant resume database in some ways. So that's kind of a unique tool that we use. And of course, we do, you know, certainly partner with various sourcing, you know, sites that are out there, such as Society of Women Engineers, National Society of Black Engineers, Society of Hispanic, Recruit Military, a whole host of, to name a few, a whole host of various, you know, organizations that we have partnered with from that respect. And, you know, we've done great events like this where we can, again, get our you know, meet the community, and both here and in Minneapolis, to get our name out there and understand what we're doing. And we've also hosted open houses, which has been a lot of fun to meet those. And hopefully we'll get to that again. With COVID, it's been a little bit more challenging, but it's been a lot of fun. And we're continually finding new and more creative ways to expand our reach and to meet, you know, various groups and all kinds of different individuals that can help, you know, build our great organization.
Well, that's fantastic. I love that you said it's challenging and also fun. That's what we call it ImprovEdge, finding the silver lining. Like, you know, yes, you can't meet people in person, but maybe you're meeting people in different virtual spaces. And I love that you shared, you know, the myriad of ways our unconscious bias can influence us. There are over 200 decisions our brain makes about whether to trust someone or not, 200 different aspects that can come into play. And in recruitment, that's so challenging to keep an eye on and unravel. And it sounds like you leading the team at AtriCure, you're heading in the right direction. So congratulations on that. That's really fantastic. I want to turn to Liz and Michelle because I'd love to hear from you both about the incredible programs you're doing. And I know, you know, not only the engineering development, the co-op program, Women in STEM, ERG, you know, talk to me about the founding of these organizations within AtriCure, and also, you know, what is happening, how are they flourishing, and what are you finding as these programs develop?
Yeah, thanks, Brooke. This is Liz, so I'll kick us off. But I'm going to start with a little bit about AtriCure's co-op program. And then I'm going to hand it over to Michelle to talk about our engineering development program, or our EDP program. And then we're going to kind of tag team the women in STEM, because that's something that Michelle and I have been working on together. So we want to share the message there. So starting off with the co-op program, but before I dive too deep into it, I want to make sure I give a huge thanks to Bridget Frost and Jonathan McHale, who more recently have been leading the co-op program and helping that be a success today. But really the goal of our co-op program, it goes all the way back to what Jennifer was mentioning earlier when she kicked us off talking about AtriCure's culture and the technology that drives our products. So our co-ops get the firsthand experience working with those products and the science behind them that helps us progress what we're designing and developing for our patients. So by having the co-ops help us dig into how the products are made, how they work, it gives them an opportunity to be challenged and solve some of those real life engineering problems. So this program is mutually beneficial for both AtriCure as well as the students as we learn together. So how does this program work? AtriCure works with several universities to help identify that talent and to develop students looking to be in the medical device space. So many of our co-ops actually end up joining us full-time after graduation, and that helps us continue living out our mission. So each student has an assigned manager that helps work with them on a variety of daily tasks. So some of these tasks are specific to a defined project, as well as learning topics to further develop their engineering or business skills. Students also have the opportunity to rotate through various departments within our engineering organization. We ask the students to rank the departments based on their interests so we can best align not only their skill sets, but also their desire to learn where our company needs them most. AtriCure also ensures that each student gets a balanced workload of both hands-on activities as well as some of the behind-the-screen activities. They also conduct lunch and learns that are hosted by internal subject matter experts, and those are chosen by the co-op students from a list of varying topics such as anatomy and physiology, interview skills, how to handle a 401k, technology specifics. So that gives them a breadth of things that they can continue to learn about through lunch and learns. And AtriCure's co-op program is one that we're very vested in as an organization, and we're excited to continue developing new talent. And that really leads us to our next program Michelle's going to touch on for the EDP. So Michelle?
Liz, so after we had so much success with our co-op program, we kind of wanted to take that to the next level. I'm really sure we found a way to maximize the successful onboarding of some of our most promising new hires from our co-op program. And Sam Privateer, who I think is on the call, he's our CTO, and he really led the charge. And 3 of our engineering directors, James Mullally, John Dreyer, Chris Widenhouse, they took up the challenge and they successfully created an engineering development program that is certainly showing, showing some fruit. It's a highly selective program for some of our recent engineering graduates. You must have been a co-op for at least 3 terms, and 2 of which need to be at AtriCure. And the program consists of 3 consecutive 6-month rotations, reporting to director level mentors. So it's kind of a unique opportunity in the areas of quality operations, manufacturing, engineering, and product development. And then mentorship is focused on technical accomplishments like accelerated development through the ownership of some business impactful projects, not just working on some random project, but making sure we're really challenging them. Organizational learning, understand the interactions between the responsibilities and within the roles and across the functions. It's as you're getting this opportunity to kind of circle through the functional areas, you become a much more well-rounded engineer. And lastly is personal ownership or leadership. So individual development with the focus on leadership. And ultimately, this is a foundation for developing future leaders at AtriCure. So we have really successfully kind of started rolling this out. And we have had some great candidates come through this program, and we end it with the selection of their final home. It's both a mutual fit for the candidate as well as the right engineering functional area. And with this success, the focus is turned to what we can specifically do to foster growth for our women in STEM. That Sam led Sam to challenge both myself and Liz to establish the Women in STEM program that Liz is going to introduce.
Yes. Thank you, Michelle. So the next program we'll talk to is the Women in STEM program that we've been leading. So the purpose of this program is to celebrate the uniqueness and the benefits that women bring to AtriCure in our STEM roles. We want to ensure that women have the opportunity to engage with both their peer group as well as leaders to create an environment leading to a successful path forward in the world of STEM. So we've been planning and hosting events that allow us to share these experiences, engage individuals in new experiences together, as well as discussing challenges and proposing solutions that benefit the whole of AtriCure. And also as part of the program is developing and using tools to help individuals as well as training on various topics. So I want to see all those vendors, so I'm going to let Michelle share a little bit more of her excitement on the Women in STEM program as well.
Yeah, thanks. This really is an exciting opportunity to really kind of foster and continue this journey and build upon what the culture that we already have. And so we kind of initiated back in Q4 of 2018, and it began with a great lunch and speech from one of our female board members on things that she learned on how to be successful. And so it just starts with our board members are really excited about this and willing to support us. From there, we created what we call the fireside chat, and that was with some of our female leaders in STEM. And that also included another guest female panelist and speaker from our board of directors. It was kind of a get to know your leaders better, and it culminated in a panel type forum where we had the leaders share their thoughts on topics, including getting your voices heard and work-life balance, which were topics that our women wanted to hear more about based on a survey that we had sent out to them. It was pretty well received, so we thought maybe we'll do something similar with some other STEM leaders to get another perspective. And we're pretty proud of our current culture of engagement and inclusivity, and that's partly a result of some of the very respected male leaders that we have in STEM. So we've invited them to a similar panel, which includes another supportive third board member, and they're going to speak not only on their journey to successful leadership, but also how they've been enriched by working with women as both individual contributors, but also as colleagues in leadership. And from there, we are in the works of establishing a mentorship program and some additional subcommittees focused on community outreach, a speaker series, training and development. So there's lots more to come. And as we mentioned, we're still relatively in the early stages of really getting all of this moving forward. But as our DEI program evolves under Kelly's leadership, this will be a nice pilot that can be leveraged.
I love that. And, you know, women's leadership is such a passion at ImprovEdge. Our founder and CEO founded ImprovEdge in 1998. I think there were, I don't even know, 5 female CEOs at the time. Certainly it's grown, which is fantastic. And so much of the work in women's leadership, especially women in STEM, it's so crucial to have male allies at the table. And even when we do women's leadership work, they're like, well, we got all the women in a room. And I'm like, well, that's great. And we need to make sure everyone's on board with culture change. It's definitely one of those challenges where we've seen such an evolution in women's leadership work. The balance of course, we always want a space for women to get together, find mentors, so crucial there, and have folks lifting everyone up. But these programs just sound so incredible for creating such a strong culture from the beginning in partnering also with recruitment there. So ladies, you sound like you have a lot of free time. So that's really great. I'm sure this is look at this amazing tag team and the team equity, as we call it there. You're truly showing up as improvisers. So thank you for sharing that. I am very excited to hear now from Kelly Scott. And, you know, we've heard Kelly's name. She introduced herself at the beginning of the session today, but I'm excited to wrap up this first part of the panel with Kelly. You know, to hear about your vision. You have come into this organization with so many moving parts and so much happening in the space of inclusive culture. You know, what is your vision moving forward, and what are you the most excited about?
Well, thank you, Brooke. Well, first of all, I know that everyone can see why I joined AtriCure. I joined in December. They had already set the tone. All I had to do was come and just keep the train moving. But I have to say, it has been a pleasure. Coming from approximately over 12 years in healthcare, you noticed that a lot of the conversation was about our leadership, right? So, and even before talking about leadership, I think, Jason, I wanted to mention in your presentation that I think you even mentioned the same thing. And thank you for being a sponsor. You cannot, diversity, equity, and inclusion is about the culture. And so having a culture being led by vision and engagement and transparency and making sure that you listen. And when you listen, you take action. That is what is really extremely important before we move forward. So what I recognized, and even during the interview process was, and the reason why, it wasn't just me and my partner in crime, Rashawn Storrs, being a part of this conversation, I felt it was extremely important that I included the folks before me who set the tone, because AtriCure really did bring in that first, what I want to say, first level, first season, Brooke, I'm sure you're familiar with, of how do you get to that point where you can get to business. Well, before you do that, you have to have the awareness, and you've got to celebrate and bring in some education so folks can understand, what is it that we're doing? What does this mean for me? And where are we going with this, right? We hear a lot, on television and things in the community and social media. So everyone has their view. But what I have to help do is lead our organization to understand, what does it mean for AtriCure, the patients we're serving, the folks we're bringing on to build their careers, and what does it mean for our community? Because we're part of the community. So I knew that AtriCure got it when I was interviewing, and I was asked to also lead engagement. And of course, I know when you're a small company, you got to wear several hats. So, okay, I'm with that. However, engagement is diversity, equity, inclusion. We can't do this work without making sure that our colleagues are engaged and getting them engaged first. So I am happy to be a part of this team. The vision is for us to work together. I always say this is a we thing, not a me thing. So we got to do this together. And as you can see, we've got folks on our team that are willing to do that. And we work as partners. The first step that what I looked for in coming in, and I've been on Sunday, not that I'm counting days, is 90 days. And anyone who's read the book, about when you start that new position, and new president, whatever it is, we're looking at what's Kelly going to accomplish the first 90 to 100 days. And so I think we've done a great job. And I remember sharing with Tanya and Jennifer and saying, hey, if we don't have buzz, folks aren't talking, if they're not asking questions, if they're not inquiring about this process, then okay, we're not there. There's something we need to reassess what's happening. And I'm happy to say that we're hearing the buzz. So folks are understanding diversity, equity, inclusion. We're looking to align it with our goals, our values, and our mission. And we need to put structure behind it so that we can measure our progress. So we hear a lot of information about, I've been at conferences, and you read articles, and they're, yes, you should make sure that you do this and make sure you do that. But what's interesting, who has really been in an organization and done it and been able to plan for it? So I have a sales background, I also come from retail banking. I understand operations and making sure that what we're doing, how is it going to affect our bottom line and our outcome? So measuring our progress is definitely what we're in the process of doing. Is how are we going to measure it? Our first year was, what I like to say, is really going to be in pencil. And that is because we are still learning. And again, I can't do this by myself. So I'm meeting everyone where they are. So as we learn and we put some processes in place, what you heard today, I guarantee if you bring us back on this time next year, it's going to be a whole nother conversation on a whole nother level. And we did a great job today, right? But we're going to have we will have specific examples on what those steps were that we took. Planning is, as a salesperson does, they got to plan on who's my audience, right? Who's my market? How am I going to get to them? How am I going to share this information, right? And how am I going to track and make sure how I get back to them and circle back and share the information again, right? Until I close the deal. Same thing that we're looking to do with diversity, equity, inclusion. We must be intentional. Biggest example is recruitment. So Reed and their team are working on recruitment. It's diversity, equity, inclusion is unique in the fact that there is no one thing that's going to work.
Yeah.
Just like in healthcare, med and engineering, attorneys, everyone is all suffering on bringing in this diverse group of people. And we say diverse group, right now, organizations are really having challenges with folks from different generations. Your millennials are coming in and causing all kind of chaos, right? And it's good chaos. However,
we're just eating all the avocado toast. We're very busy. We don't have time to do work. We just have so many avocados to eat, and you can't keep it from us, Kelly. It's important.
Well, and I'm telling you, millennials such as you have said, okay, well, we gotta, how do we market to hire? How do we hire? How do we keep them? They want to know, but they're keeping us on our toes. It's a different generation. And so they're like, okay, so, all right, I'm looking to grow with the company. How are you going to grow me? Right? So we're looking at not just different races and ethnicities, and also we're looking at those with special abilities. We have the opportunity to hire some folks with autism. We've found out what some of those that experience autism, what they do well. And when I was in Dallas, we hired them to work for the hospital. So how do we do that? Because they're part of the community too. Our veterans that are coming back, where do they fit? So with hiring, we have to understand what is our need, but I want to make sure and say, we also have to look at it from a big picture. You got to look at your region. You got to look at who's going to school. Part of that partnership in the community is if we don't have, we have people of color, unfortunately, we're still missing that number of Hispanics, women, and Blacks that are going to school to be engineers, that are going to school in healthcare. So it's our responsibility to partner with these universities and organizations in the community that's going to make sure that we have a pipeline so we're not having the same conversation in 10 years, right? So there's a lot that's involved in this, but I am very confident that we're going to get there. I love the fact that I've entered into this space where we're small, but we're growing, and the train is moving fast. And I'm like, let's go. And how do I help this train move even faster? Love it. It just brings me this energy because I know that I'll be able to see the results.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you share generational diversity. We deliver generational training, both virtually and in person. And there are, now 4 generations in the workplace. And that is a lot of different ways of communication and challenges. And then you add on top a lot of hybrid work environments where communication challenges are even more difficult, right? So things like sarcasm or emojis and these ways that we are communicating that, again, I'm here to say my mom has started using emojis in the pandemic in a way I am vastly uncomfortable with, that I was not ready for emotionally.
My mom has 15 on every text message.
I'm not ready for this. And Zoom and Teams has made it more normal. And I am just not, and I don't think she knows what they all mean. And we're just going to have to do something. We're going to need a masterclass in emojis after all this is done, because we've changed, right? The pandemic has changed how we communicate, our levels, our exhaustion. And certainly around the issues around racial unrest in the last year, exhaustion is an understatement. So managing virtual and hybrid teams in the last year, certainly in the last 90 days, may feel like a year because of how much is happening and changing, not only at AtriCure, but in the world and what everyone is going through.
Yes, I agree. When I think about our structure and how we're going to with our strategy, and so just to even share with you all that we are working on the process that we're using is, I came in, built relationships, and I really had to understand the culture and how we maneuver and function, so that we can then draw up a plan to help us that first year and have that plan approved by our leadership. I really think, and we've talked about using the model of the council. So having a diversity equity council that actually leads and provides feedback and guides your ERGs. Your ERGs are to complement the work that you're doing. So if we are looking to provide opportunities for the youth in inner city or urban cities to understand, hey, you can be an engineer or you can be a researcher. That kind of partnership, those are the activities we want ERGs to be a part of, right? So they have their place and they're strong in organizations, and we hear a lot about them. And it's important to understand that they are a part of the goals. So they help the HR and they help the engineering department, everyone else get their jobs done.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's so challenging because especially small organizations will say, well, we have an ERG and that's it. And I'm like, those employees are full-time employees and they have whole jobs, right? And then, on top of it. So also making sure that all of the work for an ERG doesn't fall on one person, because then of course no one person can do it all, except you, Kelly, obviously. I mean, that's why you're here. And I think it's so wonderful to hear just how incredibly inextricably intertwined the work of inclusion is at AtriCure. And yes, it's a joy that it was already started when you came in, but I know I can speak for myself and everyone here to say I can't see where that train goes. So we're really excited to hear more about that next time. When in a year, y'all are going to be sipping margaritas, relaxing somewhere on a beach, because all these initiatives are just going to be perfect.
BioOhio, bring us back. We're going to have a lot to talk about.
We definitely will. We definitely will. I want to make sure I make space. I want to say thank you to Kelly, to all of our panelists for kicking us off with this really robust view and vision of where AtriCure was, where you are now, and where you're headed. And I'm very excited for it. I'd love to hear from folks in the chat. If you're willing to come off mute, we'd love to hear your voice. I'm sick of my voice. Come off mute and share. Do you have a question for any of our panelists? We'd love to hear your comments and your thoughts. Panelists, that goes for you too, if you have questions for each other. Otherwise, I'm just asking questions to Rashawn. So that's where we're at.
This is John with BioOhio. So I've been around for 21 years and I've had some fun chatting and texting with some of you that are on the call. So thank you for the hilarious smiles. But I want to send a thank you from AtriCure's founder, Mike Hooven, who just texted me a little bit ago. He wants to see this whole video. I know we're recording it, and because, he kind of started it all, but, Mike, Carol, you've kind of taken it to these new levels. And Kelly, like I chatted, I want to party with you sometime. I'm like fired up. But I just wanted to thank you all for what you have done over the years. The new people that are in place, the different levels you keep pushing it to. It's just inspiring, and just wanted to thank you. And I'm gonna, after this, I'm gonna send a link to Mike, so he can maybe hopefully watch it over the weekend with a cocktail or something and see where you all have taken one of his babies. So thank you, AtriCure, for what you've done for so many years and continue to do, and rock on. I'm out.
Love it. Thank you, John. Rita, I wanted to hear from you because you came off mute and I didn't want to miss my opportunity.
Yeah, I just was going to say I would be a terrible recruiter if I didn't say we're hiring.
How did I know that's what you were going to say, Rita? Very subtle.
I'd be a bad recruiter if I didn't say we're hiring, so please do look at our career site.
I feel like I'm surprised you didn't change your name on here to Rita, we're hiring Wallstrom. And I really feel like that's the window you could have had.
My LinkedIn says that.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much. That's great. Yes, thank you, Rita. So I love the question from Scott, specifically the challenges in the bioscience industry, because of course we know why we're here and why this partnership is here. I'd love for someone to jump in, certainly the challenges, not only within the pipeline, but also in terms of not only retention, or not only recruitment, but also retention. What particular challenges in the bioscience industry has AtriCure, faced and overcome?
If I could just, so yes, I came from healthcare and I am new to the medical device industry, but I will say, based upon my experience, if we're talking about the challenge of recruiting those folks that are considered minorities in our country, right? Now, let me also mention, because I forgot to say, that we are a global organization. And so part of what we are looking to do in the future with diversity, equity, inclusion is going to be a global approach. We have sales folks that are all over the country, or excuse me, all over the world. And we have a main office in Amsterdam, and I've had conversations with the HR director there about, what Amsterdam is experiencing in their country is not the same as what we're experiencing because they have a different history, right? But with our history in this industry, it's how do we, as I mentioned earlier, how do we get the information to the youth to pursue these careers? What I've learned in working with educators is these programs, you know, I always use the Young Scholars Program at Ohio State University, where they get their attention in the 6th and 7th grade. And they actually have a program where they are actually monitored and mentored and given scholarships to go to Ohio State from 7th grade until they graduate. That's to make sure that they've got a pipeline going. So if we're looking at the future, I really feel that's the way. If we're looking now, again, your region, if we're going to be competitive, if we're going to get them and we're going to keep them and be competitive, then what we put forth, as David was talking about, our development programs have to be strong. Tuition, we have to invest internally. I think it was Rashawn who brought out the fact that we do have quite a bit of minorities in many cases, some are African Americans and all people of color. Invest in those that are in production and in these frontline positions. If they're interested in growing a career and wanting to obtain a degree and do something within our organization, then we can help them get there. There's funding out there. There's partnerships and grants that actually help to make that happen. So I do agree with investing in the folks you have now and then look at what you can do as far as recruitment. And the last thing is, as I mentioned, the region that you're in. If we're going to be competitive, sometimes a region, I love Cincinnati. I loved Columbus. I loved when I lived in, by the way, Canton, Ohio, Pro Football Hall of Fame city. If you want to know where to eat when you come to the Hall of Fame, I'll tell you where to go.
God,
However,
this is hilarious.
If you are a person of color and you're in need, you have options. So if you're going to be an organization that's going to recruit and retain and build, you're competing with the DC, you're competing with LA, you're competing with Chicago, you're competing with Washington, DC, and not just the organization, but you're competing with the community. And that's why I say it's a community effort. It's important for me and for us to know what's going on in Cincinnati. So when you recruit these engineers and these smart folks, their wives and their kids are going to want to have a total quality of life. So what do we as a community have to offer? Not just AtriCure. So our regions are very important. You know, when we recruit when we're recruiting nurses and doctors, that was the biggest deal. You courted the spouses, you courted the families because it was a family decision. So that it's the community involvement and partnerships are very important.
You know, I love that you shared that. I will share. I was forced to do a half marathon in Canton, Ohio, on a very cold February day. I don't run anymore. It's not for me. But I did do it. I ran through Canton, Ohio at 6 a.m. on a cold February day. So we definitely need to talk about that at a later date because I could not find anywhere to eat. I was so sad. Running is so hard. Don't do it. I love that you shared, you know, the importance of community. And I think now, as we are living in virtual and hybrid worlds, we realize more and more what happens outside of our office doors impacts us so much. So I really appreciate you jumping in and sharing that here. I'd love an opportunity for one more question before we send folks off into breakout rooms to network. And we're very excited that we have a great number of folks, so please stick around. We do want to network with you and get to know you because this is how we're doing this now. So please stick around with us. We'd love to meet you in some small group rooms. But before we do that, I'd love to hear one more question in the chat for any of our panelists.
Brooke, we also don't want to forget to wish David Wade a happy birthday today.
Oh my gosh, David, it's your birthday. You're spending your birthday with us?
Tomorrow, I'll be 24 years old.
You don't like a day over 23, David. Happiest of birthdays to you. Love that. Oh, see, now we're just going to get birthday messages, which I'm absolutely for. I have a question. So I wanted to hear from, you know what? I'm going to hear from the birthday boy since he's young and ready to go. He was already off mute. So David, I would love to hear from you in terms of what it's been like. So Kelly mentioned background in healthcare, and I know you've been in healthcare. What unique challenges do you face in learning and development, and how have you really figured out how to overcome those in the bioscience industry? I know folks in biosciences are driven and medical devices by evidence, right? They want proof. They want proof of everything, that everything works. So how do you use that model to drive learning and building inclusive spaces through all the variety of ways through all 5 of those pillars? I'd just love to hear a little bit more about the uniqueness of the medical device space, because I think a lot of folks on here, while they're in healthcare, maybe don't know some of the unique challenges and opportunities in that space.
I think the challenges that we're facing right now are not unique to us. I think as someone who does instructional design and someone who is a facilitator, I'm having the same challenges that everyone's having with COVID, or someone that operates in that space with a highly dispersed workforce. And so that is, as a facilitator, I like to connect with the learners and get a feel for whether or not that information is being absorbed. And it's very difficult to do over WebEx or Microsoft Teams. So I see a couple names out here, and I'm not calling you out, but like Rachel Budke and some of our other employees who've been really good about participating in some of our learning and development events. But there's a lot of pull that you have to do as a facilitator to bring people into the content, whether it's diversity, equity, and inclusion, or even some of our leadership development content. So again, our challenges are not unique right now. I think we're all kind of feeling that in the L&D space in terms of being able to get that pulse of the crowd, but it's been a good one. And technology, honestly, has really helped to bridge that gap. You use some of those tools today, doing polls and stopping for Q&A, those sorts of things are really helpful. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I love that. I think there's there's so much exhaustion. I know, like, the challenge of not being in a room. I feel that, we now have the attention span of less than that of a goldfish, right? We're under 7 seconds, no joke. So it's so hard when you're trying to engage with people, especially on the challenging content. I had an opportunity to see a webinar with the CEO of Zoom, and I don't know if anyone has heard this yet. It was an open webinar. Like, we're not friends. I just want to point that out. Like, I'm not chilling with the CEO of Zoom, but the new technology they're working on, because of course, at the end of meetings, folks are like, David, this is Jennifer, I guess, okay, bye. And then you say bye 70 times. They're trying to create new software where you say one phrase and it automatically ends the meeting. So he was doing that, and then it automatically ended the webinar with thousands of people on it. So I feel like
hilarious.
The CEO of Zoom screws up. That makes me feel better when I accidentally end a meeting. I just wanted to point that out, that we're all struggling with this, even the person who runs the company. So thank you, David, for coming on and sharing that. I want to welcome you all and go into your breakout rooms. Please ping us if you have any problems. I think most folks should be all set, and we will come back at 10 to 6 to wrap up, to say thank you again to all our panelists. So please stick around. Scott is going to send you off into breakout rooms to network. Please stick around after so we can thank not only our sponsor and our participants and everyone who joined us tonight. So please go network. We will be here when you come back at 10 to 6, and we'll see you soon.
So networking is pretty easy here. You get to choose your own room. Basically, I've assigned each one of our panelists and our sponsor into a room. And each one of the room titles is an actual day, the National Day. So it's National Forgive Your Mom and Dad Day, in case you haven't done that today. You still have time. So that's what the theme of the rooms, and we'll be popping in to say hello and to get things going. And I'm going to open those up now, and you guys have some fun. We'll see you in just a bit.